Becky Rasmussen, President and CEO of Calder Freedom. I have the pleasure to have the South Dakota Attorney General on Calder Freedom's Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram today. We're excited to have a conversation about what your office is doing to work on the issue of human trafficking, but also what's happening in the Sturgis Rally.
Thank you for letting me join you, and I appreciate all the work that Calder Freedom does to help law enforcement victims.
You're always very kind. Thank you. And we appreciate our collaboration with you. We're going to give people just a couple seconds to log on here and then we'll get started. How's the weather up here? Did you guys get?
We're getting some stormy weather coming in. We need the moisture, but we don't need the hail and the wind.
Correct. Yeah, we got about a 90-mile-an-hour windstorm last night. Not as bad as Sioux Center and some of those other areas. Did it hit you guys last night at all?
Not very bad at all. Out at my ranch, I'm 17 miles out of town. We got some wind again, but nothing devastating, not like southeastern South Dakota's experienced.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. That's what Debbie was saying today too. So I was glad to hear that you guys weren't affected. We didn't have any downed trees, so we're excited about that. But thank you for being on today. We'll go ahead and jump in. We have people logging on now. And first of all, I want to thank you, Marty, for what your office does and everything that you've done to support those that are impacted by human trafficking and commercial sexual exploitation. This past legislation, you spearheaded and carried Senate Bill 58, which was really a game changer on a local level to mirror some of that legislation up the federal. Can you talk to that and what prompted you to carry that legislation?
Well, let me start with saying that legislation wouldn't have been possible, Becky, without Calder Freedom and the various victim groups' support. And so I appreciate that as Attorney General that we could partner and come together and bring in good legislation. The force behind Senate Bill 58 was to give law enforcement stronger tools to act as both a deterrent and to get the bad guys off the street and to really protect survivors and victims. We were starting to see in our operations where we do a great job in South Dakota putting federal agents with local chiefs and sheriffs and DCI agents. And the challenge we were seeing is we were having some inconsistent standards and laws. And we felt it would be best to have the same law across the board so that we would be able to have more effective and efficient investigations and, again, protect those survivors and victims. So it did a couple of things. Number one, it made it very clear that if it involves a victim under the age of 18, we didn't have to show as many elements or the necessity of coercion or force. The other thing it did is it equalized or brought our penalties up to the federal standards, that if you're a first-degree human trafficking, which is, again, that individual victim that's under the age of 18, or if there's force and coercion forcing that sex, that's the most serious. And we put in place mandatory minimums of 10 years and then, of course, a maximum penalty of 25 years. Even for the second degree, we felt it was important that we increase those penalties to have a 5-year mandatory minimum and then up to a 15-year sentence. So it really brought in the federal standards on coercion and strengthen those mandatory sentences so that we can, again, take the bad guys off the streets and protect kids.
And I think another area that we struggle with is really that expansion of coercion. We know that these bad actors and these rings are really good at recreating what this business looks like. And they find the loopholes, not only for vulnerable individuals, but also vulnerabilities within laws. And coercion has become one of the most common tactics that we've seen that have been utilized. I know you expanded coercion as well within this bill.
We did. And again, we felt, and coercion comes in different forms. You can have somebody that grooms somebody and then uses, threats, fraud, coercion, and we wanted to encompass all that so that when the bad guys are out there and their goal is to traffic victims, that this statute encompassed that conduct so that we could address it properly in a courtroom.
I think one of the things that we see working with those that are impacted by human trafficking and providing services is a lot of times they don't even know they're being trafficked because of that coercion. that they feel like they're making a decision, but actually that is not the case when they're in control of their personal identification or control or threatening their family. And so we are just so grateful. And this speaks volumes to not only those that we serve, but those at Call to Freedom and those that support Call to Freedom, that we're taking this issue seriously. And so I just personally want to thank you and commend your office for spearheading this legislation. And we look forward to it be actively used within the system and putting more people behind bars.
And it came into effect July 1 of this year. And so just in time for the motorcycle rally, where we'll be having operations similar to what we've done in the past, where the goal is prevention and try to get to the bad guys before they harm a victim, especially the children that we oftentimes see happening with human trafficking.
And so with that being said, yeah, rally is August 1st to the 10th. I can't believe we're already in August. And, here we are moving forward with, it's the 85th Sturgis Rally, I think this year, I believe. And so people from all over the world come here, and it's a great event. You have individuals that love biking and come into the area from many different states. With great tourism and great prosperity for the community, also comes some of those bad actors. So what are you guys doing on the law enforcement front this year as far as to protect those that might be vulnerable at the rally?
Well, like you said, Sturgis is that great opportunity. I grew up in Sturgis. It's my hometown. And so I've seen a lot of benefits from the rally, from the business side, young kids getting to work the rally. People get to enjoy the beautiful Black Hills, all of South Dakota. But with that, whenever you have a concentration of population, you'll have a few people trying to take advantage of that and to utilize sometimes technology to intercept kids, groom kids. And so we don't run general operations where we're out there being proactive, trying to catch the bad guys in the human trafficking efforts that they have. And we've been very effective in the past, and I have every belief that we will be here too. I mean, part of our operations is make it known we're doing this so that it's a deterrent value, so that people that are up to no good and that are trying to engage in human trafficking stay away from the rally or other large events here in South Dakota. We run those operations fairly routinely. We're really good at it. We utilize very strong technology, and we'll likely have about 6 to 12 human trafficking cases come out of the rally like we would any large event.
And you've been doing this for almost 10 years, is that correct, on some of these operations?
We have the ICAC, which is the Internet Crimes Against Children Task Force, made up of federal, state, and local law enforcement team up. And we're much more sophisticated with the operations we're running now than when we first started over a decade ago. And I think part of that is we've been able to incorporate technology. The bad guys are using it. So certainly we are taking the opportunity with the technology available and the other law enforcement tools to be very proactive. And again, our goal is to make sure that person trying to human traffic meets a law enforcement officer rather than a young kid.
Well, there are a lot of parents that we work with and others in the community that are thinking, I know this is not it's a tireless effort. I know it takes a lot of work, and I'm not personally involved, but just from what I hear from law enforcement, the number of hours that go into these operations, as well as the manpower, and then even after the fact. So we just thank you so much for all the work you do, and we're just very blessed to have such great law enforcement here in South Dakota, and look forward to what the rally is going to bring, the good, and we know that the bad's going to be protected. So thank you for that. I think one of the things that we get a lot of conversation about is if people see something, if they see something suspicious, how do they report? Do they intervene? How do they get, how do they feel like they're making a difference in that situation? What would be your feedback to community members that may see something and want to say something?
I mean, the big thing is see something, say something. It may be contacting your organization. Of course, if it's a emergency situation, for heaven's sakes, please call 911. Law enforcement has a very strong presence during the rally. Again, we want people enjoying the rally and feeling safe. So there'll be groups of law enforcement officers walking around the rally. If you see something that seems out of the ordinary, we ask citizens to not try to intervene themselves, but get a hold of us. Grab a law enforcement officer that's present, call to Freedom, call 911 if it's an emergency. we have a strong presence there. And again, we'll be able to react quickly.
And we did put your reporting form from the Attorney General's office on the screen here that people can just log on to that. And this is a new tool that we use quite frequently when those that we serve just want to give some details about a ring, but they may not feel equipped to, come forward on their own or feel safe. And so we try to share some of that information. So I know just working some of these cases with you all that, there are various different reports that are happening at different times, and how do we share that information? And so your office created the human trafficking reporting tool that's on your website.
Yep. And it's an efficient way to get that information and get it dispersed to the right place. And we want to make sure it's as easy as possible, because again, if somebody sees something that seems out of the ordinary, sees a potential victim or a kid that's acting like something's just not right, that's the time to let us know so we can take a look and make sure everything's okay and that child's okay.
Yeah. And some people say, I see this unusual activity in my neighborhood, a variety of cars, young girls coming in and out with adults that just doesn't seem normal. This is a great reporting tool to be able to share that information, and you could change a life. It could be something else, but report and let you follow up on it, correct?
Absolutely.
So thank you for your time today. One other thing I want to say, Call to Freedom has 100 ambassadors that go across the state. And you may have seen these in rest stops and visitor bureaus. As Mr. Jackley was talking about, these are the pull tabs for Call to Freedom. And so we have these dedicated volunteers who are very passionate about making sure that resources are in there. So if you see those also, you can pull those. And we've had a number of calls from victims, and even sometimes people reading these questions and saying, I said yes to these questions. Am I a trafficking victim? And so it's very interesting. See something, say something. I want to say thank you so much for your time and everything you do. You're going to see us next time I see you, I think, is in September 18th at the breakfast.
Yep. It's a wonderful opportunity. It's my chance too to say thank you, Becky, for all that Call to Freedom does. There's things we can't do in law enforcement, and we need that help that you give, both being the preventative side of it, and when there is a victim, helping that survivor through the process. It's exceptionally vital, and we appreciate that from the law enforcement side, all that you're doing.
Thank you so much. We feel the same way about you in your office. So thank you so much. Thank you for joining us today, and just a blessed trip at the rally. And we'll see you in September.
Thank you for having me, and thank you for all that you do. And I'm looking forward to September.